Thank you, John Fleming, in celebration, and our beautiful house band. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was a year ago that you prayed for us. You prayed us right out of here and into Georgia. And we are grateful. We're grateful for our beautiful time that we had with you, and grateful for the sweetness of Reverends Kristen and Brian to invite us back. It was yesterday that we held the service for our beautiful friend Yvonne Iams. Sweet and powerful light. And in the first service for me this morning, the second service here, I thanked Ellen Fannin and Susan in celebration, the LUTs and the prayer chaplains, our sound team, everyone who made yesterday such a beautiful possibility. And we absolutely celebrated our wonderful sister Yvonne. Found out some things we didn't know about how rich and beautiful her life was even before she arrived here. But very grateful for that. And also by way of that sweet invitation that the Grandins extended to Mary and me to be with you in this form this morning, I thought, well, I'll go back and kind of see what's been happening. Sometimes I get to see the videos, and sometimes we get busy with grandkids and other things. But going back to last week, just really appreciated so much Bob Withrow's amazing sharing of 2 + 3 = 5. Great job with that. And Bob and Donna were with us in the last service, and I got to talk about how he explained things in such a way that I was just a little bit jealous of. It's like, why didn't I think of that? And but it was beautiful. And then the week before, with the 10 top things that the Reverends Grandin shared, with such a wonderful way to encourage us to stay on our spiritual path. And then I backed up to that first Sunday in June when Reverend Kristen gave such a beautiful and powerful message, and then she danced. And I thought what courage that took to dance in that way before your own congregation. And yet it was so moving and so beautiful and so underscored, that talk. I just think about what an amazing community this is. And this amazing community made possible when Mary and I were prepared to leave last year, this amazing, beautiful, abundant travel fund that gave us the opportunity to do some very serious traveling over this past year. And the most profound of that happened in the last month and a half. We left late April for Greece and spent a week there, and then 2 weeks in Italy. And it was far beyond anything we could have dreamed of. Just before I go there and want to show you a couple of images, not 100 or 150. We don't want you falling asleep in the service. But I wanted to back up and just talk about last Sunday. I was speaking at Unity Atlanta for the Father's Day service. Mary led the meditation. I was speaking there. That's the church where I started out in Unity some 36 years ago, and Mary first found Unity. It's a beautiful place. And I was actually bragging on all the Father's Day cards that I got, for which you were responsible, headed up by the plotting of Ellen Fannin and Tammy Lorraine. And so I want to thank you for those cards. I lamented a little bit last year, as I think I'd done a few years before, that seldom did I get a Father's Day card from my sons. I would wait, Saturday, I'd go to the mail and say, well, you missed your big chance, And they kind of heard that, and they thought, not this year. So I went to my porch with Mary's and our home, and there was this big box with over 60 Father's Day cards. All these beautiful meanings and sayings and clever things and so forth. The one I liked best was greatest dad in the universe. I showed that to my kids, just in case you were wondering. But we do, with our Heavenly Father have the greatest dad in the universe, don't we? Yeah. We can give that. And on Mother's Day, we celebrate the greatest mother in the universe, that mother aspect of God. But what I shared in the last service was out of those cards came this little stone. It fell out when I was opening the cards. And all of the cards were meaningful, but I have to say that this piece summed up everything that was in all of them. And on this little stone is the word love. And I laid it down on the table and looked at it. I'd given Ellen kind of a fancy title for the talk, and she received it, didn't comment or critique it or anything. She just said, go for it. But I looked at this little stone and thought about your love and thought, well, that's the title. So she was forgiving when I changed the title toward the last minute, and that is what I want us to focus on today. But what I'm suggesting that we do is look at it in a little different way. A Course in Miracles says, God being love is also happiness. God being love is also happiness. And when we allow ourselves to feel and express and see that authentic happiness, then it resonates with the very core of our being, with the love that we are. And Mary and I had the privilege of experiencing that in our beautiful travel to Europe so recently. So in looking at this idea, I came across a wonderful article by Beverly Hutchison McNeff, who is the one who heads up the Holy Encounter, the Miracle Distribution Center out in California, and is so eloquent with her teaching and her understanding of the Course. And she talks about, she quotes Betty Davis in there, who said, growing old is not for sissies. You remember hearing that quote? Now, I know most of you don't fit that category. You don't have to find out for a while about growing old, but there's a few of us that are getting a few gray hairs or all gray hair, which reminds me of, we were having lunch with my grandson Ryan last Sunday after the Father's Day service, and our daughter Elizabeth, said to him, you know, Ryan, Grandpa had blonde hair like you when he was little. And he said, I thought Grandpa's hair was always silver. Okay, so enough of that. Back to the article. So how do we incorporate this radical, bodacious, audacious happiness? How do we really ground ourselves in that? Because Beverly Hutchison McNeff in that article says that happiness of that ilk is not for sissies either. In other words, we've got to be willing to ground ourselves in the teachings that really allow that happiness and that love that is in it to come forth in consistent ways. And so I want to talk about that piece just a little bit today. First of all, by way of saying, you know, the impact of this community worldwide, we visited one particular place in Italy, and in this place, the one who was more or less in charge in that particular place had heard about our church. He'd heard about Unity Church of the Hills, heard about Celebration, heard about our teachings and the impact. Yeah, it was this guy. And one particular thing that he was a little interested in talking to Mary and me, and this was just the three of us and Jesus, you know, was he said, you know, I've kind of been getting an inkling that maybe there is no hell. And we said, well, Your Holiness, that's what we teach. There is no hell. And if you'd like to read some of our material, then I might give you... Okay, you can take that down. That's fine. But we were actually in the Vatican the day before he did that particular Mass, and it was a beautiful thing. We watched it on Italian television. Mary did. I fell asleep. No, it'd been a long day. I did watch the royal wedding with Mary, and then, there you go. And then I fell asleep, but Mary was right there. So let's look at these three commitments that our friend Beverly McNeff talks about. The first, she says, is to be committed to this particular path of happiness, which is authentic and empowering. We've got to be willing to let go of doubt. And the clearest way to do that is to embrace faith. Faith in God. I want to read you the quote from the Course that sort of inspired that particular thought. Today we will not doubt His love, God's love for us, nor question His protection and His care. It's such a beautiful, simple, powerful idea. Let me just ask you to close your eyes for a moment and just hold that idea for yourself. Today, I will not doubt God's love for me, nor question His protection and His care. Just feel that. Our sweet friend Yvonne Iams stepped out of that physical incarnation just a few weeks ago, and we celebrated the fact yesterday that she is in God's protection and care, just as we are. She, most likely much more aware of that than most of us, but that protection and care is with us always. When you're ready, just open your eyes. A willingness to have faith, deep faith in that applying to our lives. And the second commitment that she encouraged is that we let go of fear. Gerald Jampolsky wrote a book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And as I mentioned a little while ago in that second service, we tend to think of the opposite of love as hate. But the opposite of love, we're taught in that amazing work, is fear. And fear and love can't occupy the same space at the same time. Love is the reality, and fear is the appearance. And so it's about a willingness to embrace that love that we are, that's in the world. It's all around us. Even when we don't see it, we can see it as a call for love. And we can meet it with a prayer, or we can meet it with our feet and our hands doing what we're guided to do. So that particular piece is in evidence, that evidence of love in this next image that I'd like to share with you. This is when we were in the town of Siena, and it's Mary and the ceramics maker in her shop. We wanted to buy everything she had in there, but we knew it wouldn't go in the overhead locker, as the British say. But we did get a couple of things to enjoy in our home. And this beautiful being, we kind of picked her out, and there were many, many instances like that that represented a willingness to connect, to feel love. She spoke very little English. We spoke much less Italian. But it was a beautiful interchange and experience of unconditional love, something that we're all called to do. The Dalai Lama said, I need more hands. I need more hands. Jesus in the Course says, be my hands and feet. Be that presence of love in the world. And when we are in that place, fear is not a part of our psyche, of our life. It recedes into the nothingness from whence it came. And yes, it will attempt to come back around. That's part of it. But we turn to love and remember those images in our own lives that have evoked that powerful experience and feeling of love. And finally, the commitment of knowing that there is no separation. Knowing that, in fact, we are one, like our first principle says, and that we are one with the one. We are one with the one in such a way that it brings the very highest and best from us. I saw the beautiful talk that Lance Lean gave here about his experience of deepening that oneness. And Lance, you touched my heart so deeply on that day. I felt your commitment to that idea of oneness. And as far as love goes, I was in that elevator with you when you blessed that being and she blessed you. And so that separation idea we got to expand on in our experience in Europe, because we went to many, many places that indicated a sense of separation from what we had been taught and trained to focus on. Different ways to worship God. The St. Peter's Basilica, we of course were there and saw the ceiling and God symbolically creating Adam, creating man, the hands, the fingers touching, and how powerful that was. We were in there with a few thousand of our best friends from around the world, so it was not a real heartfelt experience the way we wanted it to be. But then we looked at the wall, the wall that Da Vinci or Michelangelo did. We were head and shoulders with Da Vinci and Michelangelo at the same place, but there was the work of Michelangelo, and it took him 3 years to paint that amazing piece called The Final Judgment. And if you know the piece, you know that there's some pretty gnarly pictures in there. We're in this beautiful, beautiful place, but we had to remember and hearken back to the words that Bob shared with you, Bob Withrow, last week, that there are many, many paths to God. And to say that our path is the right one or your path is the wrong one is not instructional, it's not helpful. Instead, to take that opportunity to join, to connect, to affirm our oneness, whether the other religion embraces that idea or not, in its mystical sense, it always does. And so we're grateful for that opportunity. I want to ask Mary to come up, and we want to share with you a particular piece that happened to us in the Italian Alps. Our beautiful friends, the Fire Isles, and Neil is here this morning. I know Jennifer is over in Taiwan visiting family. They really encouraged us to go to this place. And it's in the Dolomites, it's in the Italian Alps. We stayed at the same B&B that the Fire Isles had stayed at. In fact, there's a big plaque there. So, the Fire Isle family stayed here one night or 2 nights. Anyway, but they had to take that down when we left and put ours up. You know. Beautiful, beautiful place, and you're going to see in a moment a scene from that place. But Mary and I, and she'll speak to this in a moment, but we really wanted to feel all of you there with us. And it was pie joy the whole trip, but that place in particular was an amazing experience. And we were standing on the pathway that Neil had encouraged us to take this little hike, and we were on that hike, and we were just looking out at the beautiful snow-capped mountains. And we went into prayer, and in that prayer, I was encouraging all of us to be part of that experience. And just at the time that the prayer ended, we felt this huge amount of energy move out, like it was all us there praying together. And this is what we saw when we opened our eyes, something that wasn't there when we closed our eyes. And I reached for my cell phone camera. I took this picture from many miles away with our telephoto lens camera. And when I went to make a movie of it on my video phone, it was gone. We thought it was a waterfall, but it was in fact an avalanche. It was snow channeled down the side of the mountain, and you made it happen. I learned early in ministry, if a miracle happens within 50 miles, take credit for it. So that was our miracle, and it may seem a little hokey to some or whatever, but it really impacted us. We were very touched by that. And Mary's now going to share with you. And there are a couple of other images here if you should want to reference
Oh,
any
okay,
of those.
okay. Well, I think it's interesting that you didn't share about the Fiat.
Oh, yeah, we drove.
Yeah, Steve, we rented a car in Rome, and a little car, and we put like 1,500 miles on that car, all through Italy. And those 3 points that you went through, doubt, fear, and separation, I broke all those while while I was hanging on for dear life in that little car. And Steve kept saying, Mary, because we had Rick Steves with us, the book, and oh my gosh, he just helped us so much. But he said, Rick Steves says when you're here, you should just be an Italian. And so I have to drive like this, so because that's how they're driving, and if I don't, something bad might happen, and I'm thinking something bad is happening. And but anyway, so the roads are like this big, and there are no line on the edges or down the middle, and they're like pig trails I grew up on in Arkansas. and everyone's driving so fast, and it's curvy and up and down, and you got rocks falling and deep ravines. And I lost all faith in that trip on that particular road, because I thought, well, all of you, as much as I love you, you sent us there. And I didn't know if I was ever going to see you again. But so that's the second miracle. The avalanche, was a miracle, and the fact that we're here is a miracle. But no, it was so happy, and I would love to show the image of of Mother Mary. Okay. This was such a highlight for me. This is in Assisi, and it's where I met St. Francis and St. Clare, and now they are 2 more beautiful beings that I pray to. But the one of the points really is how happy Steve and I were every day. We were so happy. So we really did do all 3 things to be that happy. We'd wake up and it'd be like, where are we going to eat today? or what's it going to be? What kind of pasta is going to come our way today? And believe me, we ate all of it. And or what are we going to see or experience? And it was like we were children on this huge discovery, and we were so curious about everything and the people. And in that happiness is where it really came full circle for me in Assisi. And I would go back there in a moment, and sometimes I do go back there. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to share that. And I did share something funny in the other service, and I'll just go ahead and tell you. Because, Steve said a year ago you had this big send-off for us, and it was huge with the balloons and cake and fried chicken and everything. And so I just said, if you happen to have one of those great big cardboard checks laying around that we got last year, I would love to take that home with me. And kidding. All the board that's here, I'm just kidding. But it was so wonderful, and we love you so much, and thank you for that great experience.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been given the gift of receiving the offering this morning to call us to that offering now. Don't put any cardboard checks in the bag, if you will. Make sure they're authentic. But to this community, we are so grateful that we have such an amazing place here to connect with, to experience, to love each other, to grow in the faith. So grateful for the works that Reverends Brian and Kristen are doing, and all of you are doing. We've heard a lot about the visioning team and its work, and excited about what's coming down for this amazing community. And in the meantime, let's bring our attention to the gift that we give, or the gift that we give through online giving, whatever it may be, and feel that gratitude. Our friend Dr. Joe Dispenza reminds us that gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And so opening ourselves to feel grateful for this community, for our lives, for all that is within each of us, each the full complement of the divine. And gratitude for our ability and willingness to give that good out, to see it, to be the hands that His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls us to be in the world. So let's feel together our offering blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you like the message, we invite you to like it or share it. And we also want to let you know that we're on Instagram, Twitter, and we'll see you again next Sunday on Facebook at 11:25.
We're a New Thought church where lives are transformed, and we welcome you to check us out. Check out our website, unityhills.org. We'll see you next week.
Namaste.